Are you experiencing subtle changes in your daily habits or health that you've been dismissing as normal aging? What if I told you that certain barely noticeable signs in your own body and behavior could be signaling you're entering your final year of life? Signs that most people over 65 completely miss until it's too late. In this video, I'm revealing the 6 critical warning signs that geriatric specialists look for but rarely discuss with their patients. Recognizing these signs early could give you precious months to make important decisions, have meaningful conversations with loved ones, and ensure you receive the proper care during this significant life chapter. Let me tell you about Harold, an active 78-year-old retired school principal from Vermont. For months, Harold noticed small changes. He began losing interest in his beloved gardening club, found himself sleeping at odd hours, and stopped planning his annual fishing trip with his son. "I just chalked it up to getting older," Harold later admitted from his hospital bed. "I didn't realize my body was trying to tell me something important." By the time Harold sought medical attention, his condition had advanced significantly, leaving him with limited time and energy for the conversations and experiences he'd hoped to have. "If only I'd recognized what those changes meant," Harold confided. "I would have used that time differently, settled old disagreements, shared important memories, and put my affairs in order while I still had the energy." Today, I'll reveal exactly what Harold wished he'd known before it was too late, and what you need to know right now. Let's explore the 6 subtle but critical warning signs that you may be entering your final year of life. Sign 1. Unusual social withdrawal. Have you found yourself suddenly declining invitations or losing interest in activities and people you've always enjoyed? Are you dismissing this as just slowing down? This isn't normal aging. It could be one of the earliest warning signs your body is beginning its final decline. Geriatric specialists at Johns Hopkins Medicine have documented that approximately 80% of elderly patients exhibit significant social withdrawal 6 to 12 months before end of life. Dr. Emily Richardson, Director of Geriatric Research at Cleveland Clinic, explains, "We've observed a distinct pattern where seniors instinctively begin conserving energy by withdrawing from social engagements. This isn't typical introversion or depression. It's the body's innate mechanism signaling the beginning of end-of-life processes, often before any physical symptoms are apparent." Consider Barbara, a 76-year-old retired nurse from Wisconsin. For years, she never missed her weekly bridge club and volunteered religiously at her local library. Then gradually, she began canceling commitments. "I just don't have the energy today," became her common explanation to herself and others. Barbara assumed she was simply slowing down with age. 6 months later, after persistent urging from a friend, she saw her doctor and was diagnosed with a serious condition. "My body knew something was wrong long before I consciously recognized it," Barbara realized. "My withdrawal wasn't laziness. It was a warning sign I completely missed." Here's what you need to do immediately. First, start documenting any changes in your social patterns, specifically noting activities you used to enjoy, but now avoid. If you notice this trend, don't simply accept it as getting older. Second, instead of withdrawing completely, modify your social engagement to match your energy. Shorter visits or smaller gatherings might feel more manageable. Most importantly, schedule a comprehensive geriatric assessment with your physician, explicitly mentioning this behavior change. Don't accept "it's just aging" as an answer. Request thorough evaluation, including blood work, cognitive assessment, and a medication review. Are you ignoring this crucial warning sign right now? The window for intervention closes quickly. Make that appointment this week, not next month. Sign 2. Subtle changes in sleep patterns. Have you noticed yourself sleeping more during the day, experiencing increased insomnia at night, or having trouble maintaining your usual sleep schedule? These seemingly innocent sleep changes might actually be one of the most reliable predictors that your body is preparing for its final transition. Research published in the Journal of Palliative Medicine reveals that circadian rhythm disruptions often precede death by 8 to 12 months in elderly patients. Dr. James Carlson, sleep medicine specialist at Mayo Clinic, warns, the brain's sleep-wake control centers are extremely sensitive to the body's internal changes. What many dismiss as getting older is actually a fundamental breakdown in circadian rhythms that strongly correlates with remaining lifespan. These changes typically begin much earlier than other more recognized end-of-life symptoms. Take Albert, an 82-year-old former accountant from Colorado. Always a creature of habit, Albert had maintained the same sleep schedule for decades, in bed by 10 p.m., up at 6 a.m. Suddenly, he found himself wide awake at 3 a.m. and struggling to stay awake during his favorite afternoon programs. I figured it was just part of getting older, Albert explained. I never mentioned it to my doctor because it seemed so trivial. When Albert was hospitalized 3 months later, his physician confirmed these sleep disturbances had been early indicators of his body's systems beginning to slow down. Here's what you must do today. Start a sleep journal, documenting your complete sleep patterns for 2 weeks, including nap times, nighttime wakefulness, and total hours slept. Use this data when you consult your doctor. Install motion-activated nightlights to prevent falls during nighttime wakefulness. Most critically, ask your doctor about melatonin supplements specifically dosed for elderly patients, which can sometimes temporarily restore healthy sleep patterns and improve quality of life. Don't wait until more serious symptoms appear. By then, precious months of higher quality time will have been lost. Are your changed sleep habits trying to tell you something important? Pay attention now while you still have time to act. Sign 3. Loss of interest in future planning. Have you suddenly lost interest in making plans for upcoming seasons or future events? When you, who previously enjoyed planning ahead, now find yourself focused only on the present, it might be one of the most overlooked psychological signals that you're entering life's final chapter. Hospice specialists from the National Institute on Aging have identified a psychological phenomenon they call temporal narrowing, where seniors instinctively begin focusing on the present rather than the future as the body prepares for end of life. Dr. Sarah Thompson, Chief of Geriatric Psychology at University of California, explains, this shift in temporal perspective isn't a conscious decision, but rather an innate psychological mechanism. Our research shows that approximately 65% of elderly patients exhibit a marked decrease in future-oriented planning between 6 to 14 months before death, often while still physically functional. Consider Daniel, a 79-year-old retired teacher from Illinois. For 15 years after retirement, he meticulously planned his annual fishing trip 6 months in advance and started preparing his garden every January. Then suddenly, when his brother mentioned next summer's trip, Daniel replied, "I don't think I'll plan that far ahead anymore." When spring came, his garden remained unplanted. Daniel thought he was simply losing interest in his hobbies, but his body was giving him subtle cues that his time was limited. He passed away just 7 months later, never seeing another summer. Here's what you need to do immediately. First, pay attention to your own thoughts about the future. Have you stopped making plans you would normally make? Have you lost interest in next season's activities? This awareness itself is valuable. Next, consider having conversations with loved ones about your wishes and preferences, not from a place of fear, but from wisdom and preparedness. Consider creating or updating your advance directives and making sure important documents are in order. Most importantly, if you've noticed this temporal shift, mention it specifically to your physician as part of a comprehensive checkup. Has your perspective on the future changed recently? This psychological shift deserves your attention and potentially medical evaluation. Sign 4. Unexplained weight loss or appetite changes. Have you been losing weight without trying or suddenly lost interest in foods you've always enjoyed? This subtle physical change is often dismissed as just getting older, but actually might be the most statistically significant predictor that your body is in its final year. A landmark study from the University of Washington Medical Center found that unintentional weight loss of 5% or more within 6 months correlates with a 67% increase in mortality risk for elderly patients. Dr. Robert Wilson, Director of Geriatric Medicine at Northwestern University, states, "Unexplained weight loss in seniors is rarely benign. Our research indicates it's often the first detectable sign of fundamental metabolic changes that occur 8 to 14 months before death." What's alarming is how frequently both patients and physicians miss this critical warning sign or attribute it to normal aging. Think about Edward, a 74-year-old retired electrician from Texas. He noticed his clothes fitting more loosely, but didn't think much of it. "I figured losing a little weight was probably good for me anyway," he later explained from his hospital bed. Over 6 months, he lost nearly 15 pounds without trying. By the time his doctor recognized the significance of this weight loss, Edward's undiagnosed condition had advanced significantly. He later learned this weight loss had been the first warning sign, appearing long before any pain or other symptoms. Here's what you must do today. Begin weighing yourself weekly and keeping a detailed log. Any unintentional loss exceeding 5% of your body weight over 3 to 6 months requires immediate medical investigation, no exceptions. Keep a food diary documenting not just what you eat, but how much and how it compares to your normal appetite. Request comprehensive blood work that includes inflammatory markers, nutritional panels, and appropriate screenings. Don't accept vague explanations for weight loss. Insist on thorough evaluation by specialists, not just primary care. Is your changing body trying to tell you something critical that you're missing? This subtle sign often provides the longest advance warning, but only if you're paying attention and take immediate action. Sign 5, increasing peace or acceptance about mortality. Have you noticed yourself becoming more comfortable with thoughts about end of life, or showing unusual acceptance about mortality? This psychological shift often goes completely unrecognized as one of the most reliable indicators that your body is preparing for its final transition. End-of-life specialists at Harvard Medical School have documented what they call anticipatory awareness, a subconscious recognition of impending death that manifests as increased comfort with mortality discussions. Dr. Elizabeth Norton, palliative care director at Johns Hopkins, explains the human organism appears to have intrinsic awareness of its own mortality timeline. We've observed that approximately 70% of elderly patients exhibit a marked shift toward death acceptance 4 to 8 months before passing, often while still relatively healthy. This isn't depression or giving up. It's a natural psychological preparation that most people unfortunately misinterpret or dismiss. Consider Samuel, an 81-year-old retired postal worker from Georgia who had always avoided any mention of funerals or death. Then suddenly, during a regular family dinner, he calmly mentioned that he'd been thinking about his funeral hymns and wanted to give his fishing gear to his grandson. His family was shocked and concerned, urging him not to be morbid. Samuel later reflected, "I wasn't being negative. I just felt a strange peace about getting my affairs in order. Something inside me knew my time was growing shorter, even though I felt relatively well." When Samuel passed, just 5 months later, he had already prepared emotionally in ways his family hadn't. Here's what you need to do immediately. First, recognize that this increased acceptance about mortality is not morbid or depressing. It's actually a natural and potentially valuable transition. If you're experiencing this shift, consider it an opportunity to reflect on what matters most to you. Second, use this awareness to have important conversations with loved ones about your wishes, values, and the legacy you want to leave. Finally, consider consulting with both your physician and perhaps a counselor who specializes in life transitions to help you navigate this phase with wisdom. Are you experiencing this psychological shift right now? Rather than dismissing it, consider it valuable information that might help you use your remaining time in the most meaningful way possible. Sign 6. Subtle cognitive changes different from usual aging. Are you experiencing unusual cognitive patterns, not major memory problems, but subtle changes like increased confusion in the evening, unusual fixation on past events, or brief periods of exceptional mental clarity? These easily overlooked cognitive shifts might actually be signaling the beginning of your body's final transition. Neurologists at the Stanford Center for Longevity have identified specific cognitive patterns that often precede end of life by 6 to 10 months. Dr. Michael Lawrence, geriatric neurologist at Mayo Clinic, explains, "What we're discovering is that certain cognitive changes, different from dementia progression, often signal the body's preparation for end of life. These include terminal lucidity, periods of unexpected mental clarity, increased sundowning, evening confusion, and a phenomenon we call temporal disintegration, where past and present memories begin to merge. Most people typically dismiss these as just senior moments." Think about Beatrice, an 86-year-old with mild memory issues from Florida. She began experiencing unusual evening confusion and started mixing up family members' names, which she attributed to just getting older. What surprised her was experiencing days of exceptional mental clarity, where her thinking felt sharper than it had in years. "I didn't understand why I'd have these remarkably clear days followed by very foggy ones," Beatrice later shared with her doctor. "I had no idea this pattern of fluctuating clarity often precedes the end of life." Beatrice's physician confirmed these cognitive fluctuations were significant and helped her prepare accordingly. Here's what you must do today. Start documenting any unusual cognitive patterns, paying special attention to evening confusion, unusually vivid recall of distant memories, or unexpected periods of mental clarity. Discuss these specific patterns with your physician, asking directly about their significance as potential end-of-life indicators. Most importantly, use periods of clarity for important conversations and decisions. Consider recording your thoughts, wishes, and memories during these clear times as a gift to yourself and loved ones. Are you experiencing these cognitive fluctuations now? Don't simply dismiss them as ordinary aging. They may be valuable information about your body's timeline, deserving both medical attention and your conscious awareness. The 6 warning signs I've shared with you today: social withdrawal, sleep disruptions, loss of future planning, unexplained weight loss, acceptance about mortality, and specific cognitive changes, are the exact patterns geriatric specialists look for but rarely discuss with their patients. Recognizing these subtle signals in yourself could give you precious months to make important decisions, have meaningful conversations with loved ones, and ensure you receive appropriate care during this significant life transition. This knowledge doesn't have to be frightening. It can be empowering, allowing you to make the most of the time that remains, rather than facing regrets about opportunities missed. Hit the like button right now if you've noticed any of these signs in yourself, and comment below which warning sign resonated most with your experience. Subscribe and turn on notifications to receive more valuable information about navigating your senior years with wisdom and dignity. Share this video with friends your age. This knowledge could give them the priceless gift of awareness and preparation for life's final chapter.